David, and Catherine and I have the honor and pleasure of spending some time with you this week. And the topic of this week, we are beginning a new road trip together. And the name of the road trip is Upekkha, commonly translated as equanimity. And the destination is nowhere. It's right here. Got to throw in a corny Buddhism joke every once in a while. But it's true, right? The destination is here. And it would be really good if over the course of the next few months, we really get a deeper appreciation of that, not just in the cognitive or conceptual sense, but really in the felt sense, in the embodied sense. And so that's what we're here to do. So equanimity, like the other words that we use in the English language, are translations of terms from the original words in Pali. So the word for equanimity is Upekkha. And equanimity is not an exact translation of the term, like pretty much all words that are translated from an original language. But so far as translations go for some of these words that we use and we practice with, this is a pretty good one. Equanimity really does capture a good portion of aspects of Upekkha. There's also some translations of the word Upekkha that include the phrase to look over or to be a guardian of. And what these are connoting are qualities, that Upekkha has qualities of us being centered, being in the center of life and being balanced, right? Hence the term equanimity. And it's also described as the spacious stillness of the heart, the spacious stillness of the heart. And in the teachings, Upekkha is also described as being synonymous with nibbana, with the ultimate result, the ultimate manifestation of enlightenment, of liberating wisdom and insight. That's the culmination or the end result of the Eightfold Path. So Upekkha stands out from among the four Brahma Viharas in that it's a heart training, and it's also so much more than that. But like the first three Brahma Viharas, like metta and mudita and karuna, Upekkha is not just a state. It's not just an emotional experience. And it need not be a state or an effective emotional experience, which is something that I think we can't overemphasize. We can't over-remind ourselves of that, because I think often we can get caught up. One of the hindrances, maybe perhaps in a way, to our practice can be that we're searching for a particular feeling, for a particular way of being in this moment that we think this is what it's supposed to feel like. But the Brahma Viharas are a cultivation of the heart-mind, and they're much bigger, much deeper, much bigger than any particular one emotional state. So rather, Upekkha, like the other Brahma Viharas, is a relational way of being in life. And Upekkha, equanimity, deeply incorporates, and it's deeply imbued with the other qualities of the Brahma Viharas. So within Upekkha, we have metta. Within Upekkha, we have karuna, and we have mudita. These are all qualities and aspects of the experience of Upekkha, this particular heart-mind inclination, I would say, rather than calling it a state, this particular inclination. And along with these qualities of the Brahma Viharas, Upekkha also has the additional deep, clear seeing of the three marks of existence, right? Of dukkha, of anicca, and anatta. Of the fact, the truth, the ultimate truth, that there's challenge, there's pain, there's struggle in life. that there is impermanence, that everything is fundamentally, intrinsically impermanent. And also that this self that we tend to embody and identify with, the I and the me and the mine, is really not objectively true. It is subjectively true, and it needs to be for us to function and orient ourselves in our life, but it isn't objectively true. There is no actual self that we can point to. So Upekkha has the wisdom and the insight that is ultimately the goal of all of these wisdom practices, as well as these beautiful heart states of kind friendliness, of metta, and of appreciative joy and compassion, all wrapped up together in this way of experiencing this moment with spaciousness and with balance, with groundedness and rootedness, with clear seeing, but also with deep connected feeling. So perhaps thanks to the fact that equanimity is a word that we might be familiar with before we come to these particular practices, and perhaps because equanimity is also a term that's used within other contexts and maybe also within other faith traditions, we might associate equanimity with this kind of idea of being detached, of being disconnected, of being apart from, outside of. And because of that, I'm not ruffled, and I'm not moved, and I'm not disturbed by whatever's happening within you or within the environment around myself. In fact, within this wisdom tradition that we are practicing, this is identified as the near enemy of equanimity. It seems so similar to have this ability to just be detached and to not be moved by the excitement and the agitation or the reactivity that's happening around us or outside of us. But if in fact, the experience that we're having is not one of connectedness, not one of care, not one of open-heartedness, then what we are experiencing might look and seem like equanimity, like upekkha, but it really very much is not. So I don't know about you, but when I really contemplate about what upekkha is and what it isn't, I can really appreciate that this is why upekkha is not just listed in our wisdom tradition as being one of the 4 Brahmaviharas, but it's also listed among some of the other lists in the Buddhist traditions as being sort of the ultimate. So within the absorption states, within the jhanas, within the deep concentration states, this way of being, of upekkha, is seen as one of the deeper states. And it's also the last factor in the factors of enlightenment. So this is big stuff, deep, profound stuff. Sometimes I think about it and I have this feeling of like, okay, this is not really something I can relate with, or something I'm holding by, or something that speaks to me, or something I can relate with. So my hope is that in today's talk, as well as this week and over the next months, we get to talk about upekkha in a way that we can get personal with it. And we can feel like there's a way in for us in our practice, both on and off the cushion. And the truth is that upekkha is really developed amidst the hardships in life. When we're sitting calmly and we have peace of mind, and we're undisturbed, we're going to feel relaxed and we're going to feel good. But this is not necessarily equanimity. But in the moments where there's agitation, fear, a sense of disturbedness, we feel shattered. These are the moments where the cultivation of upekkha is really available for us. And in the past, we've talked about the hindrances. And I love the idea that not just seeing it as a hindrance, but being able to see hindrances in our practice as opportunities. They're invitations and opportunities for growth and development and deepening and strengthening of our practice. So the hardships and the challenges in life are invitations for the cultivation of Upekkha. And we're not always going to be able to see it that way. Maybe in the beginning of the practice, it's more in hindsight. We look backwards, after, maybe a while after an experience, where we had our typical conditioned reactivity. And then we can appreciate by looking backward, oh, there was dukkha. Oh yeah, there was real impermanence there. I got really real with it. But looking back, I can see this was just temporary. The flux and the state of life. And we might be able to look back and see, oh gosh, so much selfing happening there. But when we can look back and see it, every time we do that, we are training ourselves to get that much closer to being able to see that in the moment, to have clear seeing in the moment. Meditation teacher and Buddhist teacher Christina Feldman shares a beautiful little illustration of this sort of attitude. She talks about a student who lived in Manhattan, in New York City, and hung a sign up on the inside of their apartment door, the door that was the front door leading out onto the street. And the sign on the inside of the door said meditation hall. So that every time the student was going to open up their door and go out onto the street, it was a reminder, here is where my practice is. This is where I'm meeting my life. This is where my practice is, right? I have a sign on the inside of my office door, a little bit of my own twisted sense of humor. And I do a lot of work with people in recovery. And there's a lot of beautiful little phrases and aphorisms in recovery, in addiction recovery. And so right upside my door, it says, this too shall pass. This too shall pass. But it's true, really, in a deeper way, right? Everything we go through, all the winds that blow through our lives and through our minds and through our hearts, they go, they arise, and they pass. We've spent some considerable time in our Sangha talking about the 8 earthly winds. We have praise and blame, gain and loss, pleasure and pain, and success and failure. And we're all deeply intimate with these winds, or rather, they're deeply intimate with us, right? One of the imageries that's often used in the teachings that's associated with cultivating the qualities of Upekkha is that of a mountain. Sitting strong and unmoving, unshakable, as the environmental conditions change, seasons come and go, trees grow and die, and the mountain continues to be. If this is an imagery that's useful for you as you're sitting in the cultivation of Upekkha, then use it. I want to share with you a couple of other associations that are helpful for me with Upekkha. And I really encourage you to play with this. What are ideas or images or associations that come to your own mind over the coming months to help you feel a connection, a way of relating with Upekkha? Allow yourself to be open to that over the next few months. And one of the images, and Susan talks a lot about this when she teaches, is that of the, they used to have it years ago, the child's toy, the blow-up doll with the weighted bottom, the clown, And you could knock Bozo the clown down and it comes right back up. And any way you bop it, comes right back up, right? Because it's got a weighted bottom. And the stronger that bottom would be, the heavier that bottom would be, the less shakiness, the less bopping around would happen. But ultimately, even with the wobbles, right? Susan refers to this as the wobbles and the wobbling that we inevitably, invariably go through. It rights itself. It comes back to center. So this is another helpful imagery that, unlike the mountain, in real life, in actuality, we're not mountains, and we're never going to become mountains. We're going to continue to breathe. And when we sit still in meditation, we never really fully become still. We breathe. There's always movement, right? We're not frozen like mountains. And we're not going to be equanimous, literally like a mountain. But it's useful. So is Bozo the clown. That could be useful too. I feel much more often like that. But if I can appreciate, okay, here's a wobble. And what sort of wobble is happening here? What's the nature of this wind that I'm experiencing right now? And they're all impermanent. And my suffering is solely and exclusively a result of my ownership of it or my selfing process. Another imagery that I have is one of the level, that we use to, with the little liquid inside, and that has the lines. And you put it on when you want to hang something or you want to set a wall and you want things to be straight. And you measure it up with the liquid inside to see that it measures up within the lines. So when you move it, there's a natural adjustment that happens. When I was thinking about that imagery, I also thought about our smartphones these days that have built-in gyroscopes or the segways. And when you tilt forward, there's a writing process built into the gyroscope where it's going to find balance, whether you tilt forward or backward, it's going to find a way of being balanced. So even with a change in angle, there's still balance. I find that also useful. I hope to share some more associations and imageries with you tomorrow. But enough for now, enough talking for now. So let's ease our way into some sitting practice. And let's begin by taking some deep breaths, checking in with the body, seeing what would be useful right now. I appreciate that the way that we set up our practice always begins with a very deliberate and intentional act of self-care. It's not just an idea, it's an actual practice for us. Then allowing ourselves to ease into a chosen posture for practice. And allowing the body to settle into a position that feels comfortable, relaxed, to whatever extent is available right here, right now. And whatever will support a sense of being present, eyes open or closed. Either way, whether the eyes are open and we're seeing or not. Soft eyes, soft gaze. If we choose to have the eyes closed, just checking to see if they're being clenched shut with a little bit more than necessary tightness. We can check in with the entire body in the same way, particularly paying attention to the face and the shoulders, the upper back. Is anything being held with a little bit more than necessary holding or tension? And we can invite a sense of softening or opening, a little bit of unclenching. So whether we choose to bring the awareness and the attention to the felt sense of the breath or sounds, the experience of hearing, receiving sounds, or a particular touch point, a contact of the body and the ground, or the body and the seat. Appreciating that these are just entryways for this practice of being right here, right now. As we practice in this day one of Upekkha, I think it's really helpful to appreciate that literally every single one of the practices that we've been doing thus far have been and are in the support and the cultivation of this equanimity. And that when I describe equanimity as the spacious stillness of the heart, We all have some experience with this. And we practice spaciousness, and we practice stillness, and we practice heartfulness. These are intentions that we bring to the practice. And these are also qualities that we experience. And because we're actively using these heart qualities of kindness and friendliness and care, when the mind wanders, when the thinking goes elsewhere, when reactivity on the inside arises. We meet it with these heart qualities rather than wrestle with them or try to conquer them or judge ourselves for them. And then these thoughts and these feelings and these experiences too become part of the spacious stillness of the heart. This too We may choose to turn to the thought or whatever else is arising, as if to nod our head toward it and say yes. And it's not the sort of yes that says I like or I want or I need. It's the yes that gives this permission for space, just creates the space. Okay, you're here. You're here now. And then it's not. Like bubbles that children blow. Little soap bubbles filled with thoughts or feelings, body states that arise. We see them. And then they're no longer, at least not in the way they were just a moment before. Entering in the final moments of the sit for today, turning to a sense of presence, just receiving the experience of this moment as it arises. Seeing if you can notice its passing as well.